Hello and welcome to this tutorial on how to play War of the Three Kingdoms, or as known in China, SanGuoSha, Three Kingdom War. This game is based on the real divisional states of China between the periods of 2020 and 2080 AD. These three warring dynasties were known as Cao Wei, Shu Han, and Sun Wu. So, to begin the game, each player is given a role and has an objective to win. These cards are dealt at the beginning of the game, at random, and all roles except the Lord's must be kept secret. First we'll start with the Lord's role. The Lord must decipher who are his enemies and who is his comrade loyalist. If the Lord dies at any point in the game ends and the rebels win. The perfect win for the Lord is if he or she survives with the loyalist and defeats all rebels and spies. Next we have the loyalist. The person who plays the loyalist must protect the Lord at all costs by providing support, but they will be competing with the spies to gain the Lord's trust. The loyalist wins by defeating all rebels and spies and finishing with the Lord. The rebel's objective is simply to defeat the Lord, but expose yourself too early in the game and you can become an easy target. Identifying your fellow rebels and picking off the loyalist can help you meet your objectives, but the perfect win for the rebels is simply to eliminate the Lord first. Finally, you have the spy. This is one of the most fun roles to play. To win, you simply have to be the last man standing. How you achieve this is a game of tactics. Make alliances, deceive and double-cross players. It's the role of the wolf in sheep's clothing. The perfect win for the spy is to kill the rebels first, then the loyalist, and then finish with the Lord. But as long as the spy is the last player standing, then he's met his objectives and wins the game. Once you know your roles, it is now time for the player who is the Lord to choose their general card. 5 general cards are given to the Lord, and from them they must choose one to play as. The rules suggest for beginner players that Sun Quan, Cao Cao, and Liu Bei be included in those 5 cards, representing each dynasty. Until players are familiar with the game, then you can choose 5 general cards at random. For games of 4 or more players, the Lord receives an extra health point. Health is represented by the teardrop-like icons next to the general's name. A separate health card is given to players to match the amount of health displayed on the general card. So here we see this general card has 4 health, but if you are playing the role of Lord, you will be given a health card of 5. Once the Lord has chosen their general card, they then show the other players who they have chosen. Then the rest of the players are dealt 3 general cards to choose from. When the players have chosen their general, they then place it face down in front of them, and once all players have selected a card, everyone then flips over their general, and health cards are then distributed to each player. As you battle throughout the game, you will lose and win back health points. To signify this, players must move their general card across their health card, like so. Games can have up to 10 players, but in my opinion, games of 5 or 6 players are the best to play. This way, each player's turn comes around at a good pace and players aren't eliminated so easily. For a 5-player game, you should have 1 Lord, 1 Loyalist, 2 Rebels, and 1 Spy. For a 6-player game, you can have 1 Lord, 1 Loyalist, 2 Rebels, and 2 Spies, or 1 Lord, 1 Loyalist, 3 Rebels, and 1 Spy. Before we begin, let's look at our station. In the game, we can collect armor, weapons, mounts, and use spell cards, some of which stay in the field after our turn ends. Above or to the side of your general card, allow space for these cards, as other players need to see what you have equipped. I will briefly explain your station area. Firstly, you have armor. Armor has the ability to prevent certain cards from attacking you, but each armor is different, so please read your card's description to find out its abilities. Like all the equipment cards, you are only allowed 1 of each. 1 armor, 1 weapon, 1 minus mount, and 1 plus mount. If you wish to change any armor, weapon, or mount in the game, you must first discard the one you have in the field and then replace it. Once it is on the field, you cannot discard it without putting another down. Next we have weapons. Weapons are used to shorten the attack range between you and your fellow players, but they also have their own abilities, like armor, so read the description to find out what your weapon can do. Mount cards are used to either distance yourself from players, making it harder for them to attack you, or put yourself closer to further reaching players. I will explain distances further for you to get a better understanding on how it plays a part in the game. So, this is you. You are one distance from the players left and right from you. The players next to them will be 2 distance away from you, and any more players next to them will add distance. So here in a game of 6 players, the furthest person away from you will be 3 distance. Let's look at the mount cards for a second, as they are best shown from another player's perspective. If players with 2 distance away from you have a -1 mount equipped, they then become 1 step closer to you, putting you in their attack range. Similarly, if they have a +1 mount equipped, they then become 3 distance away from you. So, if you have a -1 mount equipped, 2s become 1 and within your attack range, and 3s become 2 distance away. If you have a +1 mount equipped, this only affects the other player's distance to you on their turn, and does not affect your attack distance on your turn. The last part to look at on our station area is the Judgment Zone. This is where time-based spells are placed. In the game, there is only 2 of these spells, Overindulgence and Lightning. Lightning is like a bomb that gets passed around the group. Once a player puts it in the Judgment Zone, before it gets passed to the next player, the person who dealt it on their following turn must draw a card. If it does not belong to the spade suit, the lightning card then passes on to the next player. If, however, it does belong to the spade suit and is between 2 and 9, that player loses 3 health. Overindulgence is basically making a player skip a turn. The player who deals the card chooses who they want to skip a turn. When it comes to that person's turn, they must draw a card from the deck. If the card does not belong to the heart suit, they must miss a turn. Once you have your general cards and health cards, it's time to begin the game. Each player is dealt 4 cards. The game starts with the Lord and continues around the table anti-clockwise. Each turn has 6 phases: preparation, judgment, draw, play, discard, and final. It sounds a lot to begin with, but I assure you it's easier than it sounds. So let's begin with the first, preparation, or general skills. Players may have generals that have certain skills that affect a player's turn. If we look at Yuan Shu for an example, his ability Treason allows him to draw a card in the Lord's preparation phase, and makes the Lord draw 1 less card on his turn instead of 2, making Yuan Shu a good choice for a player with the role of Rebel. The second phase is Judgment. As mentioned before, there are 2 time-based spells that go in the Judgment Zone, Lightning and Overindulgence. If these are in play and affect you on your turn, they come before you draw any cards on your turn. The third phase is Draw. Players draw 2 cards each turn, unless an ability or spell states otherwise. Fourth is your time to play. You may use an attack card only once per turn, unless an ability, weapon, or spell state otherwise. In this time, you can heal with a peach card, play any of your spells, and equip any weapons, armor, or mounts you've acquired. The 5th phase is discarding cards. Players are only allowed to keep cards in their hands at the end of their turn to match the amount of health points they have remaining. If you are a character with 3 health, at the end of your turn you should only have 3 cards and discard the rest. Similarly, if you have lost any health points, at the end of your turn you keep only the amount of cards in your hand to match your remaining health points. And now we have the last phase, the 6th phase. This is where general skills may come into effect. For example, the General Zhao Chan has the ability to draw a card after she has finished the 5th phase. So far I've explained the basics of setting up your game, and the phases players must go through each turn. Now we're going to look more in detail at some of the cards that need a little more explaining. To begin with, we will look at the attack and dodge cards. Simple enough, a player on their turn chooses another player within range to attack. You can only use 1 attack card per turn, unless your general has a skill that says otherwise. If the other player puts down a dodge card, they then defend against your attack, and your play has been unsuccessful. If they do not dodge your attack, you have successfully hit their general and they lose 1 health point. Next, we're going to look at some spell cards, and an important one in particular is negation. This card can be used to block spells or use as a substitute for cards like dodge or attack in some circumstances. I will leave it on the side for a moment as I explain some of the other cards so you can see what it does. This is a duel card. With this spell, you can make one player duel with another. They duel by putting down attack cards, starting with the player you targeted first, and it finishes when one of them concedes or runs out of attack cards. Then that player loses 1 health. If either player targeted had a negation card and put it down, this would block the duel spell from happening, and both cards would go in the discard pile. Let's bring back negation and look at another spell. Barbaric Invasion is a group spell, where all players except the player who dealt the card must put an attack card down. As this is a group spell, negation cannot block the spell from happening, but it can be used as a substitute if you do not have an attack card, meaning negation is used as a means for the spell not to affect you. You can also use negation in the preparation phase, against cards in the judgment zone, like the effects of lightning and overindulgence. Let's look at Burning Bridges and Steel. Both of these cards can target a player's station area. Burning Bridges can discard 1 card from any player, be it in their hand, a piece of equipment, or a card in their judgment zone. Steel is the same. You can steal any card from a player. The only difference between Burning Bridges and Steel is that the player you are stealing from can show you their hand and you can choose the card you want. Also, Steel can only be used on those 1 distance from you. Manipulated Attack is a spell in which you can force a player with a weapon equipped to attack a player 1 distance from them. If the player refuses to attack that person, they must then give up their weapon card and give it to the player who cast the spell. Bumper Harvest is a spell where you must draw cards to match the amount of players, place them face up, and then starting with the player who casts the spell, choose 1 card each and go around the group. If you were to use negation during this spell, you could use it to prevent a player drawing a card. An important piece of equipment worth mentioning is the 8 diagram formation. When a player attacks you, or a spell requires you to provide a dodge card, instead you can draw a card. If the card is a red color suit, you can use it as a dodge card. If not, you must provide a dodge card in your hand. So, we're getting towards the end of the tutorial, but before we do, we're just going to have a look at death and dying. When a player's health drops to 0, if they do not have a peach card in hand to heal with, it then gets presented to the group. Going around the group, players have the option to provide a peach card and save that player. If they do not, then that player is out of the game. The player who died then shows their roll card to the group, and depending on the roll, players may be rewarded. If a rebel is killed, the player who killed that character gets 3 cards from the draw deck. If, however, the Lord kills the loyalist, they must then discard all of their cards. Whenever a character dies in the game, the distance is shortened between players. And that pretty much sums up the rules of the game. Some minor things worth mentioning would be gender, suits, and family, as these are often mentioned in spell descriptions or general skills. You can find them here. I hope this has helped you understand the rules of the game and you've learned how to play War of the Three Kingdoms, or SanGuoSha, as this is a really fun game to play in a group and one of my favourite games, so I hope you agree. If you want to purchase this English version of the game, I will leave a link in the description, or if you'd like to try it out online first, there's a Chinese version of the game which you can sign up to at sanguosha.com. Thank you for watching. 再见.